Hi everyone, I'm Peyton Simmons, and today we're diving into a concept that's all about making decisions when you're not totally sure what's going to happen, which honestly describes a lot of what athletes go through. We're talking about signal detection theory, or SDT, and how it helps us understand decision making and motor behavior, especially under pressure. To bring this concept to life, we'll look at an actual basketball study that shows us how even skilled athletes aren't always better at predicting outcomes than bystanders. Signal detection theory comes from psychology and was first used in radar detection during World War II, but now it's super useful in areas like sports, medicine, and everyday decision making. Here's the basic idea. SDT helps us figure out how people decide whether a stimulus, like a signal or cue, is present or not, especially in noisy, uncertain environments. It breaks down every decision into 4 possible outcomes. The first is a hit. This is when you correctly detect a signal and act on it, like predicting your shot will go in, and it does. Next, we have a miss. This is when the signal was there, but you didn't act, like thinking the shot would miss, but it goes in anyways. Next, we have a false alarm. This is when you think you saw a signal, but it wasn't actually there, like saying a shot will go in, but it misses. Lastly, we have a correct rejection. This is when you correctly say the signal wasn't there, like predicting a miss, and it actually does miss. The key parts of SDT are sensitivity, how good you are at telling signal from noise, and response bias, your tendency to say yes or no when you're unsure. Let's make this real with a classic study by Jakuczynski, Isaac, and Burke, 1977. They looked at SDT in action by studying basketball players shooting uncontested shots from set spots on the court. But here's the twist. They had the players and also outside observers to predict whether the shot would go in before it was released. These results were surprising. You'd think the person taking the shot, who can feel their balance, their grip, the arc of their jump, would have an edge in predicting the outcome. But nope. The study found no significant difference in sensitivity between shooters and observers. That means that they were equally good or equally bad at knowing if the shot would go in. This tells us something important. Being involved in the movement doesn't always mean that you're going to be better at detecting the outcome. Sometimes external observers can process the same visual information just as well. Now, let's talk bias, because it's a huge part of SDT. In the Jakuczynski study, both shooters and observers tended to predict shots would go in more often than they actually did. This is a liberal bias, where people lean towards saying yes when the signal is there, even when it's not. That means more false alarms, like celebrating a shot too early. Why does this matter? In sports, being overly optimistic can lead to risky decision making, like forcing a shot you're not ready for committing to, or to a move. So, how can we use SDT in training? Understanding an athlete's sensitivity bias can actually help coaches customize their training approach. For example, if a player is too conservative and rarely takes chances, they might be making more misses in SDT terms, failing to act when the signal is there. A coach could create drills encouraging faster decision making with immediate feedback. On the other hand, an athlete with liberal bias might take too many low percentage shots. In that case, coaches might work on decision quality instead of just speed, teaching athletes how to fine-tune their decision threshold based on the game context. And it doesn't stop at basketball. You can apply SDT to goalkeepers, deciding whether to dive, tennis players reacting to a serve, or even a surgeon deciding where to make a cut. It's all about making accurate decisions under uncertain environments. So, to sum everything up, signal detection theory gives us a model to understand how athletes make decisions when outcomes aren't guaranteed. The Jakuczynski study showed us that even performers with more internal feedback don't always outperform observers. This is a pretty big deal. And lastly, understanding an athlete's sensitivity and bias can help improve training, performance, and decision making. So whether you're a player, a coach, or just someone who wants to make smarter choices in certain situations, SDT is a powerful tool. So That'll end my presentation, but I have one last question for you groups and other classmates out there. It's your turn to think like a coach. In a fast-paced sport like basketball or soccer, is it better for an athlete to have a liberal or conservative decision bias, and why? Thank you.